moment, I'll welcome us formally, and then we'll do a recap, and off we go, as it were. Do you want to
everybody come round?
I want to. They all want to see you.
Everybody wants to see the community.
So, all of them.
Crowd round.
David, Sanjay, Matt, Seb, everybody. Who said hello. So this is. Have you seen them? I don't know if you see them.
Did you see them?
Did you see them? I don't think it showed on that stream. Oh, well, maybe it did. Anyway, they were here. We're now. Oh, there they are. It's a bit delayed.
Oh yeah.
So I think we're going to start. Shall we start?
Yeah.
I make it 7 o'clock. So welcome if you've just joined us. A very, very warm welcome to our Thursday night slot again. It's very good. I'm finding, particularly when I sort of play back the video and see who's joined us, I'm finding it really lovely that we're coming together as a community. Not just tonight, of course, but in the other evenings as well. I find it easier and easier to imagine you in your, wherever you are, in your homes or wherever. What I mean is, it's not that I can see you in your homes. It's more that I imagine a sense of us being somehow participating in this same evening. That's lovely in a way, really lovely.
Yeah, it's very noticeable.
So, welcome everybody. And I was saying earlier, I hope you're well, whatever situation, circumstance you're in. I hope your family and loved ones are well. And I hope that you're well, not just physically, but you're somehow able to keep your Dharma practice alive. We've been saying again and again that, in a way, there's always an opportunity to practice the Dharma. And it feels, doesn't it, more pertinent than ever that, let's try and come out of this crisis situation, whatever we want to call it, pandemic. Let's come out of it, not just physically well, which I hope we will, but spiritually more vital. That's what I'd hope. I think out of difficulty can come spiritual growth and maturity. You wouldn't ask for it, but life presents us with it. And so I hope you're well in that sense as well. So, I'd like to say a few things to recap where we've got to, and then we'll settle down for some meditation.
We'll get to somewhere else.
Then we'll get to somewhere else. Maitreyabandhu's going to unpack the rest of the story, the parable from the White Lotus Sutra. So we've been looking at this parable from the White Lotus Sutra. The White Lotus Sutra is a Mahayana text, which is a really, really key text for the development of Buddhism. There are Buddhist movements who base themselves purely on this text, and it's full of stories, and Bhante Sangharakshita has really drawn out the sort of relevance and significance for us of these stories or parables, and we're looking at one of them called The Burning House, the parable of the burning house. So I won't be able to recap very much, but do look at our earlier videos if you want to catch up with the story.
Yeah, there's a playlist on here, so you'll
YouTube.
be able to see all of them, the ones.
Yeah, so have a look on.
Well, it's worth it, isn't it?
I think so. We would say that.
We would say that, but
I think it's worth it. I mean, the story is great.
It's a fantastic story.
The story starts. Remember, we're in a mythic realm. The Mahayana is the sutras of the Mahayana are mythic, imaginal epics that. Maitreyabandhu has been particularly exploring how the imaginal is and the mythic, is really, really important in that it points to something real, in that it points to something universal, timeless, and truths that go beyond fact to reach into deeper realms of truth and reality. So this story starts with some children playing in a large mansion. There's this huge mansion owned by, in the story, he's just called the Elder. He stands for the Buddha. He's now outside the mansion, and the mansion stands for samsara. It becomes samsara, and it's crumbling, as if to emphasize that samsara is always decaying, that nothing comes into being and lasts. In fact, there is no real sense of being. Everything is in a state of becoming. And that becoming is also always a falling away. So there's flowering and falling away simultaneously. Anyway, the mansion is crumbling. It's haunted by ghosts, and we've been exploring what the ghosts signify. And it's occupied, as it were, by the elders' children. There's about 30 children playing in the mansion, running around, playing with their toys, they're playing their games, and we've been particularly focusing on the games that we play, the games of egotism that we play. I was just thinking about, for example, when I used to work in the corporate world, your sort of status was governed by, it was marked by the size of your desk, and if you were fortunate enough and high enough in the ladder, the size of your office, the size of your personal space. When I was promoted, I was given a corner desk, which was like really, really good, and a more comfortable chair. And I was thinking, I don't know if that's still like that in the corporate world, where offices matter, and if you've got a view and a window and da da da. We're all working from home. All of that's been stripped away. Whether you wore power dress suits or whatever, it's gone, hasn't it? Work is not. It's not being measured in that sort of way. Anyway, it's a game that we play. So we've been looking at those sort of egotistical power games that human beings get into, unenlightened human beings get into all the time. Comparing that to the games that the children are playing, but the house is on fire, the house is burning, samsara is always burning, and we're in a dangerous situation. And this current situation is, in a sense, it's particular and horrific. In another sense, it's universal in that sickness and death were always present. A few hundred years ago, life expectancy in this country, in the UK, would have been, I don't know how many decades shorter than it is now. They were on fire then. We're on fire now. Life is always on fire. And the house is on fire. And the elder is trying to get the children out of the house. That's the whole parable. The Buddha is saying, look, samsara is on fire, and here's a way out. Because there is an out. There's an outside of samsara. To use a metaphor of outside, which isn't literally the way it is. But there is a way out of our predicament, our human predicament. The Buddha's saying, this is the way out. How does he get the children out of the house? Well, first of all, he thinks, I'll run in and grab them one by one. There isn't time. Then he thinks, I'll use some sort of implement. He thinks of a bench for some reason. I don't quite understand a bench, but maybe he's going to carry them out in droves. That doesn't work. So we've been looking at his sort of the motivation, I guess, and the urge to get them out. At the moment, after 3 weeks, they're still in the house, which is still on fire. It's still burning,
Still crumbling.
and we don't quite know. Well, you might know, but let's pretend you don't. How that's going to unfold. So that's where we've sort of got to. There's much more to say about this story. I think it's endless, actually. Maitreyabandhu has been pointing that out. There's no getting to the end of meaning and significance in myth, if you want to carry on doing that, but probably will reach an end. Maybe not this week, maybe next week. So before Maitreyabandhu sort of continues with the story, let's have a period of meditation so that we can sit. I think I really feel that if we settle into meditation, we're more receptive to the Dharma. So make sure you're comfortable. I don't know if we're going to adjust the lighting while we... so Matt's going to adjust the lighting. So I'll guide us through a short meditation. Beginning with just becoming aware of the contact that your body is making with the ground and with whatever you're sitting on. And closing your eyes and seeing if your eyes can relax from looking at a screen, that rather uncomfortable glare of a screen. Letting them soften. You're not straining to see anything anymore. It's like they can sink back into their sockets, and as they soften back into their sockets, all the muscles of the face, just imagining your face and the myriad muscles in the face softening, the brow smoothing, and softening the jaw and the muscles around the mouth and jaw. Noticing your breath. So particularly as you breathe out, imagining you're breathing out a sigh of relief that softens your face, softens any areas of tenseness, tension and tightness in the body. The shoulders, you can let the arms become heavy, imagining the arms just hanging from the shoulders falling away from your ears, from each other down the sides of the body. Your hands too can become soft and heavy. Letting them rest on either on your lap or on a cushion. And also having a sense of the legs becoming heavy, the muscles in the legs loosening, letting go of the legs. All the weight of the body being taken into the earth, into the ground. Letting the ground support you. And also having a sense of letting go of the preoccupations of the day. Whatever your day has been like. Seeing if you can let it go as we bring awareness into our physical experience, into our bodies. So the earth beneath us taking our weight, and also have a sense, if you can, of the sky above us, and a gentle lift in the upper body from the crown of your head, as if a thread was pulling you very slightly, lifting you from the crown of your head towards the sky. Following the breath, bringing some awareness into the belly, the region of the stomach, noticing any sensations inside the belly as the breath flows through the body. Looking for a sense of ease, but also a sense of alertness. Looking also for a sense of spaciousness in the body and in the mind. As we let go of holding on in the body and in the mind, more and more spaciousness opens up. And into that spaciousness, the heart can also open with metta, filling that space for ourselves, for all beings. And if the mind wanders, gently coming back to the body, to the breath, to a sense of spaciousness, filled with love. Keep coming back. And then letting go of any effort that you're making. Just sitting in awareness. Noticing your experience without trying to do anything in particular. Once again, becoming aware of your surroundings, the whole of your body and its surroundings. And then when you feel ready, opening your eyes, coming out of the meditation. hope that was helpful. And so now I'm going to hand over to Maitreyabandhu, who's going to be continuing with the story of the burning house.
Thank you, Jnanavaca. Yes, this story, as you were saying, you never get to the end of it. Every time I come upon it again, I find new deepenings to it, new richness to it. It's an imaginative story, so you can never say it means this, not that. It opens out to meaning. So yes, the elder, or the Buddha, is outside of the burning house. He's tried saying, look, you're in a really dangerous position. And that's analogous to saying you're going to die. That you're going to die and you don't know when you're going to die. That's a very dangerous position. You need to leave that house. He's been calling that. The children haven't really taken any notice, or they just occasionally glanced at him whilst they're playing their games. He's tried other strategies in his mind. And then he hits upon an idea. He hits upon an idea. Of course, they're his children. So he knows what his children love. He knows exactly the kind of toys, particularly, that the children really love. He knows that this one likes train sets, this one likes, what's that, Mario Kart thing?
I have to bring that up.
No, yeah, I did. Yeah. Think about Mario Kart. This one likes, Barbie dolls, whatever it is. Yeah, he knows exactly the toys that the children want. So he hits upon this idea that he says, come out, all of you, I've got these wonderful toys for you. All the toys that you want, I've got them out here. Come out. So what happens is, he says, come out, I've got these fantastic toys. And immediately the children hear that. It's interesting, isn't it? It's so accurate that children are like that. They don't hear what they don't want to hear. Well, we're all like that, aren't we? We don't hear what we don't want to hear, and then we do hear something that you do want to hear. You think, oh, here's a nice thing. Suddenly you can hear. Suddenly you want to pay attention. So they all come running out of the house, jostling and pushing each other, elbowing each other to get out of the house to get these fantastic toys. And the elder has just promised them these fantastic toys. So a few things to say about that, isn't it? Well, no, let's carry on to the end of this, and then I'll speak a bit more about it. But so yeah, they all come jostling out, jostling each other, and the elder is completely relieved. It's rather beautiful in the parable that the elder himself. It's not that he's just living in this blissful state and he's calling them. It's actually completely beautiful that all the children are out. And he's very, very relieved that all the children are out. And of course, what happens, he sits down on the grass in the story, and the children all rush around him. Where are the toys? You said we're going to have these toys. You can set Meccano, whatever it is. Whether the toys are Sabutio set, anyway, whatever it is. I suddenly can't think of any toys. It's been a long time. There probably wasn't poetry books. Anyway, so the elder in his mind thinks that, I'm not going to just give them ordinary toys. I'm rich. In fact, in the sutta it says that my wealth is boundless. Yeah, I've got infinite riches. Now that's a highly symbolic thought, that he's not just rich, he's infinitely rich. So he can buy for the children, he gives the children a toy, something that's much, much more than they ever imagined. So in the sutra itself, they all one wants a cart pulled by a goat, one wants a cart pulled by a buffalo or whatever. And what the elder gives them is a cart, but much bigger, much more beautiful, with all these beautiful decorations and cushions, and like like an ultimate cart to each of the
Ferrari.
children. The Ferrari of bullock carts, if you can imagine such a thing. If you want a bullock cart, here is the Ferrari of bullock. Like, you didn't even know that bullock carts could get so Ferrari-like, yeah? Stretching the metaphor horribly. He gives them these things. Each one has this unimaginable gift, unimaginable gift. And they all get into their unimaginable Ferrari-like bullock carts and go-karts, and they all go off. Yeah, so that's the end of the story. So let's just go back through some of those images. The more you reflect on the images, the more they deepen. So the key thing is that he hits upon, I know what the children love and want. I'm going to say I've got one of those out here. Yeah. So I read that at lots of different levels. One of the simple things is that the psychological level of saying you're in danger doesn't work. We all know that we all sort of know that we're going to die. We all know that life is uncertain. We all know, you don't need the two of us to tell you that. You don't need the Buddha to tell you that. It doesn't work. You can see that, yes, it's a crisis situation. Yes, I need to do something, but you very often don't. You tell yourself to do something. You say, here are the good things I should be doing, and then you go onto Facebook again, or you scroll through your Instagram account, and then you tell yourself off for not doing what you know you need to do, and so you go around again. And so often that's the human predicament. Somebody is calling you about, you're in this situation, do this. You would agree, yes, I am in that situation, I need to do something valuable, and then you find yourself not doing that thing. Yeah. So as a strategy, it doesn't work. What the Buddha is saying is, you know this you love, you know this you really want, I've got them out here. Yeah. Now it's interesting because in the sutta it's a trick. It's called skillful means, which is a polite way of saying a kind of trick. But I think it's actually much deeper than that. It's not literally a trick. Because what he offers them, when they come out and say, well, where are these toys? He says, well, you know you wanted a bullock cart. Well, here's this. It's still a cart, interestingly, still a bullock cart. It's just much, much more beautiful. It's got all these incredible decorations, gold and silver inlay, beautiful cushion, something that your children just couldn't imagine. So it's not saying, I'm offering you, you wanted this toy and here it is. It's saying, you know you wanted that toy, I've got something unimaginably greater than that. So, golly, I'm really struck by that as a deep answer to our human predicament, is that first of all, you need to look at what you love, what you want, and that there's actually something in what you want which is a kind of attempt to get something that you can't imagine that you want, if you see what I mean. So you want love, often romantic love, sexual love. You want excitement. You want to feel like you're really important. The children's games, I think, are games of prestige. You want to feel like you're really important. You want to feel like you really matter. You want to feel like people love you. You want to be famous. All those kind of stuff. And the Buddha's saying, great thing. I've got them all out here. You want to be Brad Pitt out here. I don't know how you manage that, but anyway, you mean, look at what you love. Look at what you want. And they're kind of often inchoate ways of moving towards something greater, more. Even in our sort of tiny choices, we're trying incoherently to get to a more. So the Buddha's offering you a positive response. You can read this in many ways. It's also, I think, saying, here are these beautiful images of what you could be. You love beautiful pictures and images and colouring books. I've got these great images out here. Yeah? And I think one of the reasons why you see these images of Buddhas, and the whole art of Buddhism, is trying to attract you out. That there's something out here that's infinitely rich. The Buddha's richness. There's something out here that's boundlessly rich. Yeah? But what I'm struck with is that it's the same analogy of the children to the Buddha. the children are the Buddha's children. So there's something of the Buddha in them. They're not just immature. They are immature, but that doesn't fully describe them. They've got they're the blood of the Buddha. And you and I, the metaphor is saying, is yes, we're immature. Yes, we're playing games of prestige, games of psychological games, social games, interpersonal games, political games. Yes, we're doing that like children. But there's something of us that is related to infinite richness, that's related to Buddhahood itself, sort of almost unimaginable and literally unimaginable. And the gifts are a similar thing. You want a bullock cart. Here's something, the Ferrari of bullock carts, something that you couldn't imagine, which is like what you want, but infinitely more. Yeah,
and that really satisfies.
And that really satisfies, yeah, that's very important, that really satisfies. That is just really what you want, not a kind of distorted image of what you want. So often what we want is a distorted image. So a clear one, I think, is success. We want success, and that's success at work, success in love, success. We want success, but very often when we get success, you get this horrible feeling of disappointment. It doesn't really add up to that much. You get that office, you get that desk, you get the view of the Thames, and actually what you get is lots of work. It's a chimera, it's an illusion. But that instinct to want success is a kind of distorted way of wanting this, of wanting plenitude, of wanting infinite richness, of wanting boundlessness. We all want that, and we're kind of, because we're children, we're getting that all mixed up with little games, with little shiny things, our little shiny toys, but actually we want boundless riches. What's I find poignant is that we're not satisfied until we get boundless riches. It's not that the Buddha's saying that's what you want, isn't it? Actually, you are not satisfied until you've got that kind of state of mind. Even the things you get, they don't satisfy you. The toys you get, the new clothes, the new lover, the new life, it doesn't satisfy you for long. The holiday of a lifetime, it doesn't last. But it's all your attempt to get at boundlessness, to get at the infinite, which is in you, that you're related to, that your blood wants to manifest. You want to grow up into that. Yeah. There's another poignant, slight part of the story, which is really rather, when you think about it, this thing of the children jostling to get out. They're elbowing each other to get what they want. And one way of reading this that Sangharakshita brings in is that even on the Buddhist path, or on any spiritual path, people try and get what they want, including good meditations, deep communications, friendship, wisdom, insight, but they start kind of jostling each other for it. They act immaturely. It's one of the saddest things about a Buddhist community, and it's a thing that you will see, you haven't seen it yet, and I've seen, and I've been to my sadness involved in, is when there's disharmony. When people who are trying to move towards the same thing can't work together, or find it hard to work together, or find it hard to live together, or find it hard to understand each other. All that's perfectly natural and human, but poignantly sad as well. There's a slight shadow, I think, in that sort of jostling to get out. So the Buddha's saying, I've got this toy for you. But then they say, come on, where's the toy? And he said, well, actually, here it is. And they're like, wow, I never even imagined that could exist. Because the Buddha's got infinite wealth, he can make that exist. So that's our relationship to the Buddha figure. It's like, I never knew that existed. And it's not existing out there. I can discover it in myself. And you will discover it. You can discover it. It's right there in front of you. You just need to find what you love and try to work out what you mean by it. It's a distorted way of trying to reach to the infinite. And then perhaps one last thing about it before we open up to questions, which is I'm struck by the fact that what they each get, and this is possibly ancient Indian matter, but what they each get is a cart. They get something you can climb into and ride and go somewhere. Yeah, they're not given a palace. They're not given a bouncy castle, the ultimate bouncy castle. They're given a cart that takes you somewhere. So for me, that says that the Buddha's Dharma gives you something you can do with your life, something that will take you somewhere, a journey that never ends even, an infinite journey. So it's the metaphor of infinitude, of boundlessness, is on one hand perhaps a metaphor of wealth, which is always a symbol for inner wealth, that you've got there, but it's all covered over because you don't realise you've got it and you're sort of looking for it elsewhere. But it's also giving you something to do, somewhere to go, some journey into mystery and value that will never end, that will never feel like, okay, I've kind of done that.
It's not stasis, is it?
No, it doesn't offer you a static, here we are, we're out. It's interesting, you could say, we're outside. We're outside of samsara. Samsara, by the way, is really our relationship to the world. It's the world as it appears to us through our mind. But you could say, okay, once you're outside that negative relationship, okay, job done. And it says, well, I just use that to get you out of the house and you're safe now. But actually what it gives them is somewhere to go, is even more than that. There's something extremely profound about that, which I still don't feel I've quite captured. You might be able to do, whether you've got any more to add to that, but something about that, isn't there? That it's more than you can imagine, and it's not stopped. It's not a place you get to. It's a journey you set out on. But the journey is such a platitude now, but it's something unimaginable, and it keeps going on.
I think something about consciousness, something about life, something about the nature of life is that it's not stasis. It's always growing. Consciousness is always wanting to expand.
That's a good way to put it.
It doesn't. It's not a thing. Consciousness isn't a thing. It's more a process of expansion of life that manifests in form, but isn't limited to form. Not essentially, and
form in this situation is a burning house, isn't it?
Forms in burning house, but also the bodies that we have, the individual bodies that we have. And consciousness isn't limited in any of those ways, not at its deepest level. At a superficial level, yes, it is. And we occupy most of the time that superficial level and take that for reality. At a deeper level, those limitations don't apply. And there is boundlessness, but it's not static. It's unfolding, blossoming, growing in beauty, in freedom, in creativity, in love. None of those are static. It's not like a static heaven that you arrive and you sit down and you've done it. It's not like that.
And all of that's in your blood. You're related to that. I love that metaphor of relation. That you're a child, yes, because otherwise as a child it would be quite, in a way, yes, we need to grow up. But actually, even in the child, even though they do need to grow up, they've got something of that infinitude in them.
Because
their
consciousness
nature.
does. Consciousness does.
Yeah, because consciousness does,
At its deepest.
So perhaps this is a good time to start to open up to questions. This is only one way of starting to explore this parable. And next week we'll just carry on with another parable. But see whether there's anything you want to ask about this. I mean, for instance, do you feel that there's something in you that... I remember when I first understood Buddhism for myself, I really felt that, I'm like a dry seed with the possibility of being a flower. I felt sometimes like a dry seed, but within that feeling of being a dry seed is that you could completely blossom. Do you feel that? I think we've got some questions now.
Yeah. So Nico asks.
Hi, Nico.
Well, he's asking about purifying the negative elements of the things that we love. For example, artistic success, which could have positives and negatives, and how we purify them so that it helps and not hinders.
Should I say something? I think the motives are the thing that we're trying to purify, isn't it? It's the motive. You can still have artistic success. It's the sort of self-centeredness that we're trying to purify. I don't think there's one way of doing that. I don't think that it means giving up on success or striving for success. I think it means enlarging the vision of what that success means. So, first of all, one thing that comes to mind is sticking by ethical principles. So, you as a screenwriter, I know that you stick by your ethical principles, and there's certain types of projects that you wouldn't accept, even though they might give you success in terms of fame. So stick by values, have them, right in front of you, the foregrounding of your life with values. But also, I think include a sort of expansive sense of others. Why are we doing what we're doing? We want to create something of meaning and of beauty, and that's life-enhancing. All artistic creation at its best, I think, would be, if it's truly worthy of the name, would be life-enhancing or meaningful, and meaningful. Enriching. So that already then has a sense of other people in there. And then you strive, and then probably there's a mixture of motives, and then you have to confess, and you have to have friendship that people can point out to you, look, you've got intoxicated with this bit of success or whatever, or you've compromised here on your principles. So it's like we fall over, and then we have to pick ourselves up, and we reflect, and we confess, and we carry on. It's messy, but it's a direction is possible.
I mean, the other thing that occurs to me is that success is always success in the eyes of others, isn't it? When we talk about success in anything, we mean from other people's perspective. And I think that what I think we need to do with that is that's inevitable, but then just be generous, as generous as you can. But it strikes me that when we talk about success, we really mean in the eyes of others, and that's highly problematic because that's also to do with fashions, it's to do with luck and all sorts of other forms.
I also think meditation and reflection and retreats, solitary retreats, are really important. On a solitary retreat, you haven't got anybody else around you judging you.
Yeah.
Personally, my solitaries, I've learned, a little bit more to be more individual, so that I don't mind so much what other people think of me. That it does still bother me, but I don't mind so much, as long as I'm living, by my values. So retreats, yeah.
So perhaps we should move on. There's a few more questions, I think. So let's hear another.
Yeah, so there's a couple of questions here about, finding what we love, finding what we want, and moving towards it, and also kind of understanding what do we mean by that. So how do we understand what we do want, and how do we move towards it?
Sometimes I think for this, often for many people, the first thing is what you don't want. In a way, that's a simpler thing. What you want, I think, is quite difficult because it's not to do with shall I be a pianist? Shall I be an astrophysicist? It's never going to be like that. But you want to learn by reflecting on your own experience what doesn't work for you. You're trying to work out. I think it's part of a larger matter of working out what kind of creature you are, what lights you up, and what definitely doesn't light you up. But often, I think you start with learning what you don't want, what doesn't work. Surely that's one of the great needs for reflection is you can always make things worse. So when you do that, see how you're making things worse. So let's stop that at least. And then things will start to reveal themselves to you.
Well, I'm struck that I know some people have lost their jobs or some people have been furloughed. And, it's a time for reflection. Do you want that job? Do you
Yeah,
want
yeah.
that life? What was it that you were looking for? I was saying earlier that that survey a few days ago that said only 9% of people in this country, in the UK, want to go back to the life that they normally had. Life as normal when we come out of this crisis. So that's quite interesting, isn't it? That's 91% of people saying, they want some change individually, but I think they're also talking collectively as to what sort of society we want to be part of. How do we want to live? It's taken this for some people to really reflect on what they don't want. So I think that's very important.
And I think we've got another question, but I think it's also trying to say that this parable is trying to say that the things that you want and love and crave for, even it might be sort of distorted, but it's not fundamentally wrong.
No,
sure. That there is a kind of intelligence in in yourself. In other words, it's saying that your life does matter. What you like, what you don't like, the creature you are, is trying to do something. It does matter. You matter. Your actions really matter. Even the silly, foolish ones are us trying to get at something. I think it's trying to say that your life matters, your actions matter, and you need to follow them into the beyond. But there's another question, I think.
Yeah, so Colleen asks, how do we know if we're outside the house or still inside, or are we in both situations all the time?
That's a good question.
Thanks, Colleen. I think this side of enlightenment, we're definitely inside the house at least most of the time, and we do step out of it. The bit of us that has responded to the Dharma is sort of calling from the outside of the house. It's like we're hearing the call. We spoke a couple of weeks ago about the call. So in us, there's something already, as it were, which has the perspective of the outside. Perhaps it's very inchoate, and it's there in potential, in seed form. But occasionally you can have experiences that do feel like they take you completely outside. Ecstatic experiences, that's what ecstatic means, isn't it? Standing outside of oneself. Experiences where you feel this expansiveness of mind, you feel connected with all life, you feel uplifted, you feel a mystical sense of everything's all right, even when patently at another level it's not all right. There's a mystical sense in which everything is always all right. In fact, more than all right, perfect. You can have those heightened experiences, sometimes through art, sometimes through nature, sometimes through human communication, sometimes seemingly out of nowhere, even in distressing times. There can be a lifting us. Consciousness wants to somehow break free of the boundaries that we put on ourselves.
I mean, another thing I was thinking is, I completely agree. I'm just also thinking the other side. I suddenly thinking I want to also validate the house. That being in a house is a good thing, because houses have got doors and windows. Actually, many of us are in a prison. When you're in when anyone's in a negative state of mind, it's a prison. It's not a house. You know how you can feel completely locked in something that you at times feel like, I just can't get out of this. I keep getting into this state. If you get very depressed, if you get very angry, sometimes your conditions are more like a prison than a house. So even being in a house and a child in a house, actually for many, many people in the world, that's a real step. A real step,
So we're so familiar, we stay with the familiar and the known, don't we?
Yeah.
So sometimes I think we choose to stay in the prisons that we're in, even though we're unhappy in them.
Yeah.
Because they're familiar, they're secure in a certain weird way. They feel secure because they're known. Whereas stepping outside the prison into the house, or stepping outside the house into what feels dangerous, and we instinctively don't realise the danger that we're in, because it's known, or we think it's known. Actually, it isn't. So the Dharma life asks of us to keep stepping outside of the confinement, and that feels risky.
I think we've got another question as well.
Yeah, you might have covered this, but maybe there's something more. A question around: can we learn to put out the fire and stay in the house? So the house or job isn't awful, but maybe it was just our mind that made it seem awful.
Well, I think once we're outside of the house will look very different. I don't think that the fire, in a way, is a perspective on the situation. Once we're outside the house, in a way, when we're out of the danger, we can see samsara for what it is. We can see the house for what it is. And then we might be able to come and go and not get burned even. We might be able to do something in the house, play in the house, do something useful in the house without getting burned. We don't live in the house, though. We can enter it without getting burned. So samsara, in the Mahayana, the enlightened being, the bodhisattva, the archetypal bodhisattva, still engages in the world that we're in. But the engagement of the bodhisattva manifests as compassion, as trying to alleviate suffering in this world. And it's interesting, for the bodhisattva, the word that's used for that engagement is lila, which is play. So just as the children were playing, the bodhisattva is still playing in the house, but the play is now suffused with wisdom. It's born of wisdom, actually. And the play is about alleviating suffering. But it's not about making samsara comfortable.
Yes, that's what I was thinking.
It's not about fixing samsara.
Yeah, I think if you try to make samsara comfortable, it becomes a prison again.
Yeah.
And you sometimes meet people who in literally beautiful houses that has become a prison to them. So in a certain sense, it's interesting. I think if you leave the house, presumably what you see is beauty.
Yeah, you see beauty.
And the fire is stopped being a fire of destruction and becomes a fire of transformation and beauty. And it doesn't burn you anymore. I think all of those metaphors are trying to say that there's another state of being that we can't imagine, like the bullock carts that the Buddha eventually gives the children, in which the usual dualities don't obtain. Here and there, now and then, what I get, what I want, what I don't want.
Well, me and you.
Me and you.
Self and other.
All of that.
Life and death.
Yes, all of those things that we think are real seem to be not real in the way that we think they are.
But at its own level, samsara won't be fixed. Ever.
No, ever, no.
And I think that's really worth bearing in mind when we read the news, or wonder when lockdown will end, or will we go back to normal or not, or what about fixing this problem? Yes, we might be able to find a vaccine, but at its own level, samsara will never be fixed. There'll be some other calamity. There'll be some other danger, even tragedy, catastrophe. It'll never be fixed at its own level, because there's always sickness, there's always death, it's impermanent. Samsara is on fire.
So I wonder whether we should start to move towards conclusion, because we want to make sure that you can go and clap. We can all run out and clap. So we want to finish a little bit before 8 if we can.
I'm afraid we haven't answered all the questions. There's, I think, at least one question left.
There was 1.5 minutes ago.
Now it's gone. So sorry about that. Sorry we've not been able to answer everything.
So next we'll be continuing. So this this is our sort of exploration of this parable.
We don't know what we're doing next, actually.
No, I've got an idea.
Okay, we do know what we're doing next. I don't know what we're doing next.
I thought we'd do the parable of the return journey.
Okay, yeah, the return journey.
Yeah, we'll do another parable from the White Lectures. There's quite a few to go through. But we'll start to draw this to a close. Just before we finish, just to say what we say at the end of every evening, that all of this is, from our point, is just that we want it to just be a gift. It's lovely actually having the guys from the community, we all come down together. None of us are being paid to do this. We're just wanting to give these videos. We're trying to create this culture of generosity. We're trying to create a set of conditions in which people can grow, where people are just generous to each other. So we really want you to join in that culture of generosity. So many of you already have, because you're helping out at the centre when you could come to the centre. I know many of you are giving donations to the centre. So I'm going to just say, please do give a donation. The one that helps the Buddhist Centre most and helps the running of the centre is a monthly donation, and you can see the link underneath this video. Or give a one-off donation. But Jnanavaca, you were saying last time or both, that's right. You were saying last time that I think if you can give, and we give, we're part of this same community. Otherwise, we're on telly, and you're just tuning in, and you can you can go onto Netflix straight after us. So why don't, if you give, we can give. Then we're in this together. I'm feeling that more and more, and I know you are. So if you can, click the link below if you can, and give that'd be great.
I was thinking that if you've been giving a monthly donation, thank you very, very much. And it's easy with a monthly donation to then somehow forget about it. So if you can, why don't you just give a few pounds on top of that every time you tune in? So then you feel, a bit like, it helps us, of course, but also it creates this sense that we're participating together.
So let's start to round off. You're going to...
So I'd like us to finish as we have been with the transference of merit and self-surrender. And, these words are the words of an enlightened being that's saying, nothing is for me alone. I want to serve the highest possible vision, which is enlightenment for all beings. And it's only through serving the highest possible vision that I can escape the prison of self. So in a way, what seems like a paradox is actually the only way. Okay, let's finish with the transfer from merit and self-surrender in call and response. May the merit gained.
May the merit gained.
In my acting thus.
In my acting thus.
Go to the alleviation of the suffering of all beings.
Go to the alleviation of the suffering of all beings.
My personality throughout my existences.
My personality throughout my existences.
My possessions.
My possessions.
And my merit in all three ways.
And my merit in all three ways.
I give up without regard to myself.
I give up without regard to myself.
For the benefit of all beings.
For the benefit of all beings.
Just as the earth and other elements.
Just as the earth and other elements
are serviceable in many ways.
Are serviceable in many ways.
To the infinite number of beings.
To the infinite number of beings.
Inhabiting limitless space.
Inhabiting limitless space.
So may I become.
So may I become.
That which maintains all beings.
That which maintains all beings.
Situated throughout space.
Situated throughout space.
So long as all have not attained.
So long as all have not attained.
To peace.
To peace.
Good, thank you very, very much. And I hope you'll keep tuning in every weekday evening. And we'll see you next Thursday.